Right now, we'd like to continue to the next session. She's the next interesting session going to delivered by co-founder of Center for AI Leadership. You're going to come up on the stage and talk about topic of making cybersecurity practical, how to communicate about cybersecurity in terms of value. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to welcome Mr. Ethan Seow. เชิญค่ะ
Testing, testing, testing. Testing? Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Just to add on a little bit of things, when we were talking about coming here, it was Center for AI Leadership because that's one of the organizations I'm founder of. However, what I'm talking about today is more towards another entity I'm part of and leading. It's Practical Cyber and Cyber Intel. Just to give you a bit of context, I've been in the industry only about 4 years, but what I realized was learning a lot of things about the technical aspects as well as the business aspects of cybersecurity taught me a lot. And what I'm going to talk about is how do I make it practical for businesses to understand. The reason why this is close to my heart is in the last 2 years, I've had so many friends' companies had ransomware. One of the companies even had ransomware 3 times, wiped all their servers, and just reinstalled everything again. And they refused to do anything about it. So they are still having the same vulnerabilities till today. And I've had more than one company do this. And one of the biggest struggles was how do I communicate this to these people? So I'll give a bit more background about me and what's been happening. And hopefully, this is enjoyable for you guys. So with this, again, my profile, my co-authors of the book that I just wrote. It's still in closed beta mode. If you guys are interested, there'll be a QR code later on. What we're trying to do is to make this open source, allow people to contribute to this as well in the long run, to make it as easy as possible for business owners and leaders to also understand cybersecurity. Also for us cybersecurity people to know how to communicate with them. And that's really important. So why I wrote the book, how this affects cybersecurity, and then I can go through a little bit more about the book and how to use the framework. Again, this will be open source, available on GitHub in about 2 to 3 weeks' time. And I hope you guys will be able to utilize it for your different work. Just to give you a bit of background, I'm not your typical person from cybersecurity. I was a medical student. I went through all 5 years of it. I was trained in psychiatry. In fact, I was about to graduate. I decided it was not really for me. I left medical school. So all 5 years of medical school, a lot of my training was in psychiatry and psychology. That's also one of the reasons why I have a very different angle towards looking at this. Another major part of this is ever since then, I started different types of businesses for the last 12, 13 years. And I also work as a musician on the side. So I deal with a lot of different cultures as well. I think this gives me a very different age from most of the people because I've been talking different languages. When I talk about different languages, I speak music, I speak psychology, I speak a lot of, I used to run events as well. I also did a lot of office issues, culture in companies. So I've done a lot of different things. And when I came to cybersecurity, I found it quite useful for me to add it to the table. And that's really why I wrote the book. And so just to give you a background, so the good thing is I managed to find my way around. And 2 years ago, I won the ISACA InfoSec Leader Award, as well as ISC2 Rising Star Award in cybersecurity. And that's how actually I've been building up where I'm trying to add value into cybersecurity. I realized that I'm not just, I'm not here to just say that I'm the best red teamer or blue teamer. I'm not any of those. What I add to the table is my experience outside of cybersecurity to add into cybersecurity, and that's really what I focus on. My co-authors, really interesting set of people. My good friend Daniel Goh, he's actually ex-Ministry of Home Affairs from Singapore, designed quite a bit of the cybersecurity policies, was actually involved with quite a bit of cybersecurity policy making in the government level. Courtney Gus, ex-IBM head of governance in APAC. She gave me a lot of information about dealing with a lot of big companies and how the maturity evolves. And that gave me a lot of information as to how I could frame it in a different manner that's more business focused. Umesh Patel used to be also from BlackBerry, again, under cybersecurity governance. Deepak Tawa, ex-Dell, and Donovan Chia, who is currently the cybersecurity consultant at Dallas. So in case you guys know any of these guys, hopefully you know, at least I got really good knowledge from them. Of course, I have a very good friend and honor, Emil Tan, who is actually the head of Division Zero in Singapore, who is writing the foreword of the book. So just to give you a context, again, I'm not doing this as me. I'm doing this as helping, the cybersecurity industry kind of write something that can hopefully help the industry. So the other part about this is, so I do AI side of things. So anyone who's actually interested in helping contribute to the cybersecurity side of AI side, please feel free to contact me as well, because that will probably be the next book that will be coming out, because I'm working with my ex-Meta director, co-founders in Center for AI Leadership, and we're working very much on the threat actors as well as the attack vectors in LLMs as well. So again, why I wrote the book. I started with the issue of my friends' companies all getting hacked, and nobody. So incident response comes in, and starts very often realizing that the company has wiped all their disks. There's no incident response playbook that they can use because none of the information is available. The other part about this is they had cloud logs of 3 hours of their firewall. Could we do anything to help them at that moment? So one of the things that keeps happening regularly in Singapore, and this is something I saw a lot, was a lot of SMEs getting ransomware, getting hacked, getting breached, and then sweeping it under the carpet if nobody noticed. And that's really, really what happens very often, I think, worldwide. And one of the biggest reasons why this keeps happening is they don't think that cybersecurity is worth spending on. And one of the biggest reasons is, as actually Serge was talking about this, when you think about planes and flight, many people can imagine the risk of a plane falling, people dying. Can you imagine the risk? Do people imagine the risk of cybersecurity? Can people even imagine how it impacts them, how it impacts their business? I know 2 major companies in Singapore that got ransomware back in 2022, and they rather closed down because it was cheaper to close down the company than to do incident response, or to pay the ransomware, or to do anything about it. They were listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange, by the way. These were real companies that were actually badly affected. Nobody knows about it till today. This is why this book is important, because most companies don't know what to think about when it comes to cybersecurity. And this is meant to be, as you can see over here, my goal is, if you have a conversation with a business leader, hopefully in 30 minutes you can illustrate to them the impact of cybersecurity in their business. Because if this 30 minutes is enough for you to convince them that there's value in this, you have done a great thing in moving at least a company forward. Why? Because very often the business leaders are the ones who are governing the budget, thinking about the different processes. And most importantly, they all are on survival mode most of the time. Would they think about cybersecurity? No. But you link it back to what they're doing on a day-to-day level, you can move some needles. I still remember I flew to another country. I talked to one of the largest grocery chains in the country, and the owner of the company was telling me, I don't think cybersecurity is important. I spend $0 on cybersecurity. And I was like, why? And he was saying, because it's like, hacking humans, right? All you need to do is just convince someone, open the door for you. I trust my people, it's fine. Then I spent about 15 minutes explaining to him how vulnerabilities work. And he looked at me and went, huh. Good thing is, I heard about a few months later, he spent some budget. I mean, not a lot, but he moved a needle. And for me, as long as we move a needle every day, hopefully we can all be a little bit better by the end of the year, right? So that's really what I'm hoping to do with this book. How many of you enjoy dealing with this checklist? Anybody who recognizes this kind of checklist? This ISO 27000 checklist is one of the usual templates that people come up with. How many people enjoy looking at this and getting a business leader to go through this with you? Right? Okay, usually, by the time you're probably on the fourth line, fourth category, you're probably asleep, or the person's asleep. And very often, this is where it also comes back to the question, how is this relevant for me? It's a very common question I hear from business leaders. They very often leave this to the CISO for the larger companies, or for companies that don't have a tech team or IT team, or even a cybersecurity person. They usually go, can we just outsource this to someone else? And in Singapore, we have this thing called Cyber Essentials, right? Where a lot of companies have to get proven, you get a Cyber Essentials cert to be able to get government projects. And this is one of the interesting things that has a list of controls as well. Very often, the business leaders do not want to go through this themselves. They outsource it to someone else. And that's very often the attitude on the ground. And that's a genuine thing that we keep seeing. No matter how much we try to move and regulate, the hardest thing is getting people motivated to even think about cybersecurity deeply. And so my goal, again, is we're not going to bring the technical controls into conversation. We're going to talk about the business so they think about cybersecurity. So why this is very important? So actually, one of the biggest things is the lack of knowledge. And when we talk about knowledge, it's not about book knowledge. Everybody knows cybersecurity is important. Let's put it another way. Everybody knows smoking is bad for you. There's pictures on the cigarette packs showing you all the impacts of smoking. How many people still smoke? How many people feel the impact of smoking? So this is really important. It's not knowledge or experience per se in the sense of, when I talk about this, it's visceral, something that they feel. Another major part about this is a lot of small to mid-sized business. When we talk about mid-sized, even 10, 20 million USD kind of companies, they are often perceived to be easy targets by a lot of threat actors. And that's one of the major things. And of course, the good part is nowadays, more and more companies are liable in terms of personal leadership. The leadership is getting personal liability over the attacks. And this is something started by the US recently with all the different things around Uber and other things, where the CEO and the CISO actually gets impacted by what they do for the company. And that's actually a good step forward. And this is why it's good that we make it visceral for them. So again, we can improve the adoption of cybersecurity by increasing the perspective, of the organizational leaders to understand and therefore to be willing to spend on cybersecurity. And I'm not even talking about a lot, even the beginnings. And that's what my goal is. Okay, so who is this for? Again, the book. Okay, so this is the basic picture of the book, the framework that is put on this. It's a Miro board. Anybody who uses Miro? Miro is like a sticker thing. So what happens is the whole point is also for it to be fun. All they need to do is slowly fill in the blanks and they'll start realizing what they're trying to protect within the organization. And that's really to simplify the process. It all can be done digitally. You also can do this in real life. So again, for business leaders to grasp and navigate their organization's cybersecurity needs. Why is this so important? Because if the business leaders don't think about cybersecurity, very often it's an argument between the CISO and the leaders, rather than a discussion and a collaboration. By valuing cybersecurity, it changes the whole thing. And the other part about this, and this is especially so for quite a few of the people who have already signed up for my closed beta, they realize that this helped them learn how to communicate with their leaders. And this is what I'm really interested in. One of the conversations we had just now was a bunch of CISOs from different companies at a panel with Serge just now. I think this is where the perception of risk within the organization only starts increasing when the CISO can communicate well with the C-suite of the company. And this is why it's very important we have this. So let me go a bit further into this. Success points, you guys can get the slides off this. I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to go straight into the thing. So again, the whole back of napkin approach. I'm going to start with this. Okay, so you guys can see the thing. When you get the slides from the organizers, you'll be able to see this. So first up is name of organization. Second up is what industries you're in. One of the major things that people lack is awareness of how their industries impact their business. When I talked to one of the OT companies, it's a printing business, they thought that because they're not CII, nothing affects them. No, PDA affects them. A lot of different policies affect them. In fact, some of the clientele as a supply chain would affect them, but they don't know that. And one of the major things about this is understanding what industries they're dealing with is going to help them heighten their awareness of cybersecurity risk for them. This is called revenue channels. Why is this important? Because at the end of the day, all business owners only think about two things: money and cutting costs. Right? That's usually one of the two things that you really think about. So if you talk about revenue channels, you can link cybersecurity risk back to these channels. Then you can make it visceral for them. Annual revenue. So this is where we talk a little bit. I can't remember off the top of my head my own framework. Sorry about this. But all right, so this is where they are getting regulated. So one of the major things about this is in Singapore we have healthcare regulations, all these kind of different things. Do you know what you're regulated by? Again, a lot of small companies don't know this. Then we go into the next phase where we call business goals analysis. Over here I've written in the book, for this company I've imitated a consultancy company that deals with manpower. What is this is maintaining as well as increasing revenue for the year. When you look at this, right, how do you break it down? Who are the ICs in charge? What are the different things we're trying to do in the year? When we talk about key drivers, like marketing, like sales channels, like our website, our track record, so that people know who we are. These are important things for them. So then we can go into points of failure. What are the things that will cause them to fail as a company? What will cause them to lose money as a result of all these different things? From there, you start realizing that, hey, is my CRM important? Customer relationship management portal. Is my social media management portal important for me because I'm using it regularly for marketing? Is my database, is my laptop important because that's where I access all the different data from? This is where they start relating back to the business goals, the IT assets they need to think about. And from there, then we can start talking about what are the value that you're protecting by protecting those things. This simplifies the overall process because it starts going back to what my organization is about, what my business goals are, and it starts going deeper and deeper into that. So what I did was I actually broke down all the different parts. Again, business goal, key drivers, points of failure, things to be protected, and value protected. Why this is important? Because if I don't demonstrate what value I'm protecting, is cybersecurity important for them? Not at all. So the other part about this is this, anybody who's in design, Rose, Thorn, Bart, Rose, Bud, Thorn, anybody knows all these kind of terms? No. Okay, so Rose, Thorn, Bud is a very common term used in UX design where we talk about where are the good points of the user experience, Thorn being the places where people feel a little bit of problems, and then Bud is where things can be improved. I switched it around a little bit and turned it into Rose, Bud, Thorn. Instead, and in fact, I'm using another way of looking at this, which is using zero trust architecture. I'll explain a bit more. But what happens is that Rose, Bud, and Thorn is, in each of these areas, what am I doing well already? So one of the things that we talk about is under identity, which is zero trust. One of the things that people don't realize is just by buying Microsoft 365, and I'm not promoting them, just by getting a Google Workspace or different things, by having individualized controls, that's considered one good thing. Oh, I turned off 2FA. Oh, that's actually a good thing. When I start listing this out, you start seeing people's eyes going, huh, that's cybersecurity? You mean I can do a little bit? Oh, that's a little bit more. It becomes a list of different things that they might not know they've already done in the right direction that's helped the company become a little bit more secure. By listing all this out, it becomes something more visceral for them. It's something they have done already the other day. When you talk about BUD, one of the things I like to talk about is MFA because two-factor is starting to become a little bit gray area, and sometimes multi-factor is one of the easiest ways of moving things forward. And a lot of people don't even realize that on their different email systems, they already have multi-factor available. Then we talk to them about, hey, why not consider just turning that on? How much does it cost you? If companies just improve that just by a little bit, and we know that Google had this research, right, where when they turn on 2FA, the attacks reduced by 80+%. That's a very good improvement. And if we tell people this kind of simple things, how hard is it for them to think about cybersecurity more of a step-by-step approach? So of course, we talk about the different things they can do, improve the authentication methods they can do, as well as what are the blockers. If I were to spend, okay, so one of the things that I like to talk about is a lot of companies buy SaaS models and they go by per account. So they all have one unified account, one login email, and one login password. What happens is that everybody shares their account, it becomes a sensitive point, especially if it's an HR software or something like this. So then that's when you start talking about how much more does it cost to actually buy more licenses for your HR department. This is where you can go into details of all these different things. Why is this important? Because people who are in business think about the cost versus the value. When we put it all back into the picture, you're protecting this bunch of value. Is this cost worth the while? We're putting it all into one framework so they can understand all these details. And so what I did was, rather than adding in incident response and disaster recovery process, which is going to take another 2 hours to talk to the person, simplified it to the 5 things in zero trust architecture: identity, devices, network, applications, and data. Simple things that we can just talk about on a day-to-day level that touches them in terms of IT products that they touch on a regular level. Why is this important? Again, it simplifies the process and gives them concrete things to work from, rather than this esoteric thing that you saw just now, which is a major list of checklists. And with that, now we can go to the questions. Anybody has questions and want to ask anything more? Meanwhile, if you want to still sign up for the beta, it's currently available. Use the QR code, just sign up. I'll send you an email to invite you to the beta. And in case, on a side note, because I'm also representing Center for AI Leadership, if you are interested in our software bootcamp, there's an interesting thing on the site. You can read up on it. But meanwhile, you can just sign up for the beta. Meanwhile, any questions right now about the framework or anything that you want to know about this?
มีคำถามเพิ่มเติมไหมเอ่ยเชิญได้เลยนะคะ Is there any question?
Oh, and anybody who wants to contribute to this, feel free to just sign up for the closed beta and I'll let you know as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was that?
All right. So if I see none, then you can contact him later or you can contact him in person off stage. Thank you very much once again. A big round of applause to Ethan. ขอบคุณค่ะ Well, that's a great presentation that we have received from you. Also, please take the moment to complete your survey, which that popping up on the screen right now. So your feedback is valuable for us because we can make our show even better for the future. Thank you very much once again. สำหรับเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะคะหัวข้อที่เราได้ฟังจากทางด้านของคุณอีเธนนะคะก็จะเป็นเรื่องของความมั่นคงปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์นะคะทำอย่างไรที่สามารถที่ทำให้เข้าถึงแล้วก็เป็นที่เข้าใจได้อย่างง่ายดายนะคะวิธีการสื่อสารวิธีการ communicate นะเกี่ยวข้องกับความมั่นคงปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์นะในแง่ของ value ในแง่ของการมีมูลค่านะคะก็จะเป็นการนำเสนอนะการมั่นคงปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์นะคะต้องบอกว่าการที่จะให้พูดถึงมุมมองในแง่ของ value หรือว่าคุณค่าเนี่ยเป็นเรื่องที่ยากแต่ว่าก็สามารถที่จะทำได้แล้วเราก็สามารถที่จะทำให้การ communicate นะคะที่มีความเข้าใจนะคะแล้วก็มีความกระจ่างมากก็จะช่วยลดในเรื่องของช่องว่างหรือว่า gap นะคะระหว่างธุรกิจได้นั่นเองรวมไปถึง framework แล้วก็สื่อต่างๆนะคะสามารถที่จะทำให้ผู้คนเนี่ยเข้ามาใช้แล้วก็เรียนรู้ได้นะคะแบบ open source นั่นเองแล้วก็วิธีที่ดีที่สุดในการที่จะแก้ปัญหาเรื่องของความมั่นคงปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์ในระบบนิเวศนั่นก็คือการที่จะทำให้ทุกฝ่ายนะคะองค์กรบุคคลมีความเกี่ยวข้องแล้วก็เกี่ยวเนื่องกันนั่นเองนะคะ so here we have come to almost another two more last session of this year 2025 of Cybersec Asia together with the Thailand International Cyber Week. For more details, please feel free to visit or just go and check on our official website, or so that you can just scan the QR code in the back of your badge to download and get our application